So I'm now going to record Daf Mem Amud Aleph, part 2. But before I do that, I'm just going to speak out an interesting discussion. We learned that anything that's cooked either through fire or a talda fire is a deraisa. We learned that anything that was cooked in the sun was muter l'katchila, and taldas ha'esh was a machlokes between the Rabbanan versus Rabbi Yosi. Taldas hachama was a dispute between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yosi. According to the Rabbanan, taldas hachama was also gzeira atu taldas ha'esh, and according to Rabbi Yosi, there was no such gzeira. The reason why chama was muter, so Rashi says, because it's not a usual form of cooking. Rabbi Moshe was asked about cooking in a microwave on Shabbos. And he said, since Rashi differentiated between a normal way of cooking and an abnormal way of cooking, since that's the key between fire and sunlight, so since a microwave is a normal way of cooking, it would be an Isser Deraisa. Now, Rav Moshe has a very interesting discussion here. He says, the question was posed to Rabbi Yosi, if you hold that Toldas HaChama is mutter, so why was the cold water pipe in Chamei Tveria Aser? And he answered, according to Rav Yosef, because it was Toldas Ha'esh, which means that if it would have been Toldas Ha'chama, he would have agreed that it's mutter, but since it's Toldas Ha'esh, therefore it's Aser. So Rav Moshe wonders, how should we treat cooking in Chamei Tveria? If it's considered the norm, then it should have been a deraisa, even if it's Toldas Ha'chama. If it's not normal, then it should be mutter, even if it's Toldas Ha'esh. One more time. Since Rav Moshe set down the rule that the difference between Eish and Chama is norm versus abnormal, so why did Rabbi Yosi have to say that cooking in Chamei Tveria is Toldas Ha'esh? What difference does it make? If it's normal, then even if it's Toldas Ha'chama, it's Aser. And if it's abnormal, then even if it's Toldas Ha'esh, it should be mutter. If the key is normal versus abnormal. So Rav Moshe explains that when Rashi says in Chama's abnormal, does not mean kil achar yad, done with an unusual manner which would make it a derabanan. He means that in the Mishkan, they used fire for cooking and not sun. So therefore, if you look back in the Mishkan, fire is considered a deraisa, because that's the way they did things, and sun was not considered a iser, because that's not the way they did things, and therefore it's muter legamri. So therefore, if the Chamei Tveria would have been told as a chama, it would have been muter even if it's the norm. Even if it became the norm to do it, but since chama did not exist in the Mishkan, therefore it's muter. However, Rabbi Yosi said that Chamei Tveria is told as Aish. And if it's told as Aish, if it's the norm, then it's a deraisa. If it's abnormal, it's a derabanan. But the difference between normal and abnormal is what was done in the Mishkan. And Aish was done in the Mishkan, and Chama was not done in the Mishkan. Having said that, the microwaves they didn't have in the Mishkan either. But I think what it means is that they had fire and they had sun in the Mishkan. Fire they used and sun they didn't. Therefore, fire was considered the norm and sun was considered not the norm. But a microwave they didn't have. Had they had it, it would have been the norm. So therefore, even a microwave, Rav Moshe says, would be a deraisa. But sun, since they had it and didn't use it in the Mishkan, therefore it's muter legamri. There's a machlokes between the Marshal and the Rashba whether you can fry an egg on a hot roof. Since it's obvious that the hot roof is toldas hachama, so the Marshal says there's no gzeira of toldas hachama or to toldas ha'esh. And the Rashba says, no, we are always geyser toldas hachama or to toldas ha'esh, even though it's obvious that the sun was toldas hachama. Can you use a magnifying glass in order to cook something on Shabbos? And the answer is yes, because the magnifying glass is using the sunlight, and it's not considered toldas hachama. But there's a machlokes hapaiskim about using, let's say, if you use the magnifying glass to create a fire, is that fire considered toldas hachama, which will be totally in the machlokes the Rabbanan Rav Yosi, or is it considered eish, and everybody would agree that it's aser? So the Shvisas HaShabbos holds that toldas hachama is something which is merely the product of sunlight. But if it's actually fire, it doesn't matter how the fire got created, it's considered eish, and cooking with that eish would be an iser deraisa. Can we now continue in Daf Mem Amud Aleph? The last thing we learned was that according to Rabbi Shimon, you're allowed to bathe with hot water that was heated on Erev Shabbos. You're allowed to shower. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, you were not allowed to. We paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. Taner Rabbanan, the Rabbanan taught in the Braisa, Merchatz, a bathhouse, Shepakaku Nekov of Erev Shabbos, that all the openings that bring heat to the bathhouse have been blocked up. So therefore, there was no heat heating the water on Shabbos. L'matzoi Shabbos rechatz b'miyad. Matzoi Shabbos you can bathe right away because there was no heating done on Shabbos. Pakaku Nekov of Erev Yontif is l'mochar nichnas meziyah. If you blocked all the holes on Erev Yontif, so on Yontif you're allowed to go in and use the steam because there was no gzeira on using steam on Yontif. But v'yoytzei mishtativ b'beis achitzayin. But then when you want to take a cold shower in the outer room but not in the inner room. So nobody should think that maybe you're using hot water that was heated on Yontif. Amar Rav Yehuda Masa b'merchatz shel Bnei Brak shepakaku nekov of Me'erev Yontif. In Bnei Brak there was a bathhouse that the openings of heat were closed Me'erev Yontif. L'mochar nichnas Reb Elazar ben Azariah of Reb Akiva ve'eziyu. Reb Elazar ben Azariah of Akiva went in and got steam, heziyu by. And v'yatzu, and then they went v'nishtatfu beis hachitzon, and they took the shower in the outer room, which left no illusion that they might have used any hot water, but it was certainly cold water. Elo shechamen shalai mechupim min asorim, and even furthermore, the hot water from the inner room had been covered by boards, so therefore there's no possibility that any water they were showering with had been heated on Yontif. K'sheba davar l'fnei chachamim amru afa pi she'en chamen shalai mechupim min asorim. The Chachamim said it wasn't true, that in that bathhouse the hot water had not been covered with any boards, and they took the shower outside and it was perfectly okay. Misharabu Oivra Averis Chilu Lesor Ambat Yoshel Krak Ambat Lesor, when sinners started to proliferate, so they answered even taking steam. But Ambat Yoshel Kraken Metail Behem Veina Chayshish. But very, very big bathhouses in the big cities, you were able to walk through it, but you weren't concerned that anybody would think that you went in for steam, because steam is also, but you're allowed to walk through. So Gemara wants to explain what happened here. My over Aveir, what were the sinners that started proliferating? What does that mean? In the beginning, they used to shower with hot water that was heated on Friday. They used to bathe even in hot water was heated on Friday, because if it's heated on Friday, what's the problem? So the bathhouse attendants started heating water on Shabbos and claiming that they had heated it Me'erev Shabbos. There's also a sachamen. So they prohibited bathing, or according to Rabbi Yehuda, even showering with hot water on Shabbos, even if it would have been heated on Friday. But the Tira Azeya, but steam, using steam was still allowed. So people were still taking baths and showers with hot water that was heated on Friday, and they were violating the decree. And V'ayimrim is saying, all we're doing is we're going in here for steam, which is still allowed. So therefore, Asru Lemes Azeyas. And now the Chum went further, and they answered even using steam in the room. Betiru B'chamei Tveria, but they still allowed the hot springs of Tveria, because there's no possibility of heating it on Shabbos. So people were still bathing in Tveria using fire-heated water. And V'ayimrim is saying, B'chamei Tveria Rechatznu, we used Chamei Tveria. Is Asru, they prohibited even Chamei Tveria, Betiru Lemes Atzainan. Yet they allowed cold water. Rosh Ein Adavar Aymed Lem, they saw that people couldn't stand it, is therefore Yitir Lem Chamei Tveria they allowed, and Zeya B'm Kaimai Medis, but the Isser of steam remained. So bottom line, any water that's heated on Shabbos, you're not allowed to bathe or shower with it, even any part of your body. Water that was heated on Friday, you're allowed to wash your hands, face, and feet, but not your whole body, and even limb by limb, you're not allowed to, because the halacha is like Shmuel. And we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that you can't bathe in hot water. What about water that's heated on Yontif? You can only wash your face, hands, and feet, because that's something that everybody would want to do on a daily basis, but not your whole body. Water that was heated on Erev Yontiv is a machlokes or Rishayim. the Rashi, Rif, and the Rambam allow you to use water heated on Erev Yontif as long as it's outside of a bathhouse, but not in a bathhouse. And you're allowed to shower with it. Tosfos holds that you're not allowed to use even hot water that was heated at Erev Yontif to wash your body anywhere at all. Okay. Just a short Dvar Torah. The Rashba finds it hard to believe that Yidden were actually being Mechal Shabbos and claiming that the water was heated on Friday afternoon. So the Rabbeinu Parachia says the bathhouse attendants that were cheating were Goyim. But the reason it's Usr is because you shouldn't benefit from a malacha that was done on Shabbos by a Goy on your behalf. There's an issue about women using a hot mikveh on Friday night. The Chacham Tzvi suggested that it's Usr because you're not supposed to use hot water on Shabbos even if it was heated on Friday afternoon. Paiskim noted that it's common practice for women to use a hot mikveh, and one of the Ateirim is the Noida Yehuda, who says that the Isser was not on Friday night, because the Rabbanan's concern was that people will heat water to use on Shabbos day, because by that time it would have cooled off. Now, on Friday night when the water is still hot, we weren't chayish that people were going to heat the water on Friday night. So therefore they never answered using water that was heated on Friday for Friday night. I wish everybody a good Yontif. I don't know when you'll have a chance to see this. We're going to fall behind over the next couple of days. I'll try to upload a shir on Matzah Yontif, and then again on Friday, and then again on Matzah Shabbos, and hopefully during next week we'll catch up what we fell behind. Kadosh Baruch Hu should help that everyone who is sick should have refuah shalema, everyone who's healthy should remain healthy, and everybody should enjoy a Simchas Yontif.